Everything is fine and you can hear me and you can see me well. Today was day 7 of candidates. We have one win, great win by the way. MVL beat Nepo, which was 1 point ahead of him. So now they both tie for first, 1 point ahead of everyone, including Caruana, Giri, Van Kao and Grishchuk, who have 50%. And I think the tiebreak is direct encounter. So MVL is now in the lead in case of a tie. Although if you go to chess 24, it would put Nepo first. I don't know why, maybe alphabetically. But MVL is ahead now in case of a tiebreak. Just like Magnus Carlsen, I think that was 2013 or 14 candidates. Yeah, probably 14 every even year. He tied first with Kramnik. Thanks, Valery. And then he became first and went on to beat Anand. So I would start with least interesting game. The most interesting was MVL, although on the other hand it was not very interesting. He just crushed it from the opening. So let's see first the game. Dink, Oleksiyenko, the two guys who share the last place. Who could have guessed that after 50% of tournament, Dink Liren would be on the last place with 1 win and 3 losses. So he was white against Oleksiyenko, and let me see, he started thinking at move 15. So I'm gonna use online database to check what was going on. So he's a Catalan player. He's very narrow, his repertoire is quite narrow, and for white as well. So knight bd7, queen c2, c6, the most played position, bishop to f4, b6, rook to the center, the pawn is attacked. He beat Karyakin like this, playing knight bd2 last year, and knight h5 was in that game. Rook c8 played by Oleksiyenko, it was never played on the highest level. Rook a to c1, knight h5, bishop e3. Kovalenko played like this with black 5 years ago. And knight back to f6, and he played bishop g5. That seems to be his preparation. And now bishop b7 played by Oleksiyenko, and basically no games in database starting from this point. So Dink is on his own. In correspondence chess, I think they played h6, and black managed to make draws. But 2013, Valery points out. But the match was in 14, but candidates were in late 13. Maybe that was the case. All right, thanks. And after bishop b7, so Oleksiyenko already spent 9 minutes on rook c8, 5 minutes on knight h5, 17 minutes on bishop b7. So clearly he was not prepared for this. And now after, by the way, bishop b7, the best line according to Stockfish. And here Dink thought for quite some time and played knight to e5, which is a decent move. Maybe I would consider going e4 in this position. It's very typical for Catalan to push e4, and that may be an improvement on this game, because after knight e5 I don't think he got anything. And so I'm using my friend Valery's Lila to the left and strong Stockfish to the right, so I want to be very efficient in my analysis. Maybe he didn't like c5, maybe he didn't like something else. He did spend a lot of time. He did spend, okay, not a lot, 8 minutes. Knight e5 he played, which is a very typical move for Catalan. And Oleksiyenko took knight g4, simplified the position a little bit. The pawn is hanging, so knight f3. This is basically a forcing line. Not much to discuss here. And Oleksiyenko pushes f6, which is also quite typical. Black wants some counterplay down the f-file. And now e takes f was played by Dink in 8 minutes. Both engines say queen a4 was a very good try for white, so that could be an improvement. Although I think for black there could be an improvement with c5 in this position. So after f6, maybe queen a4 he had a chance, but he did it 2 moves later, which was not so good. Queen a4 attacking the a7 pawn, that is not very human. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, pawn to give up the whole center and take the pawn on the edge of the board. Yeah, I'm guessing the pawn on b6 would be lost. So yeah, apparently queen a4 was a very good try, and dc4 was the idea of forking things, but even queen c4 leads to advantage for white. So queen a4 seems to be like an improvement. What about f takes e5? Now e4 looks very dangerous. Oh, cd5, of course. Forget about the geometry. Queen takes g4 would win for white, and on next move. So f takes e not possible. Queen a4 was a great move, and white would get advantage. So he missed his chance. He took, knight takes, and now I didn't like this move. Bishop to h3. Technically, it's a forcing move. White wants to go knight g5, knight e4, knight d4, but I don't know. The stockfish seems to like it. It looks a little bit artificial to me. That's why he spent 27 minutes on it. He was reluctant to play that move. Bishop h3, rook c to e8, very logical, unpinning. And now he plays queen a4, which, yeah, the engine says knight g5. That seems like something he would plan. But then what about queen d6 and f4? All looks artificial to me. Queen a4, logical move, but now c5, queen a7. Why didn't he play queen a7? It's queen c7. Now the queen is almost trapped. The queen has to go. Knight d4. What is... Oh my goodness. Knight d4. Oh wow. And if pawn takes, it's cd5 and then e6 is falling? No, the bishop is lost. Oh wow. The bishop is lost. Oh wow, this is way too difficult. No, he's seen queen c7, he thought that his queen is in trouble, and if queen goes back, what's gonna happen here? Just d4 was a very powerful center for black and strong attack. That's why he didn't take, he played b4, and after that actually black seized the initiative a little bit. Knight to e4. White did win the pawn, but knight went to c3, enormously strong knight, rook to e1, dc4. Now black sees the initiative. Black is not even one pawn down. Look at all black's pieces, maybe with the exception of the rook on e8. The pieces are very strong. The queen side, white's queen side is collapsing. So white is fighting for a draw, so h3, almost the only move to survive. And now Oleksiyenko played bishop d5. Knight takes e2 was also possible, but bishop to d5, queen b4, takes, rook takes. And that is pretty much it. They just exchange stuff. Even if white managed to win the c4 pawn, that was still a dead draw on that level. So they just went for a repetition. So that was it. That was a great chance for Dink to win, because he was a clear favorite, more than 100 ELO point difference. He's a very strong player, and he did have a good position, but then he had a worse position. So apparently he's not in very good form in this tournament, unfortunately for us viewers. So far he's losing 14 points of rating in 7 games. That's 2 points of rating each game. That's like his performance is 2640, 2650. That's way below his actual strengths. All right, moving on to the next game, Giri Grishchuk. So they played a line in which Grishchuk already had a game last year for this exact position. Grishchuk already had this exact position against Tomaszewski in December. And Tomaszewski played, what did he do? Wait a second. D3 was played in that game. He did lose, but I'm guessing he had a improvement. So I'm not gonna guess what his improvement was. I'm just wanna point out that he spent 29 minutes on h5. So knight e3 is basically a novelty. Let me see. 0 games in database and no correspondence. So knight e3, a good preparation by Giri, I'm guessing, a new move. So here Grishchuk spends half an hour and plays h5. He definitely had other choices. There's a question, who is gonna win the candidates tournament? Yeah, well, MVL or Nepo, and now MVL has much higher chances, although Nepo is very good with white pieces. He's gonna get white pieces, oh wow, in the last round of candidates, right? Since they played in round 7, which is exactly the half of the tournament, they should play each other in round 14. Yeah, round 14, no, they changed it. Why is that? That's weird. Okay. I'm no expert in round robin pairings, but it seems to me consistent that if you play the first round with somebody, ding one cow first round, so the same should apply for round number 8, one cow ding. Why not round 7? MVL Nepo, and now I go to round 14, MVL plays one cow. Yeah, I don't know why. I thought if you have a close tournament, so second round is the same as the first one, just with colors reversed. Apparently I was wrong. Okay, so not the last round, but MVL is still a favorite because he has Nepo would be my favorite at the moment, because depends if he can recover. He can recover, he's the favorite because he could win. He's very strong with white. But for now, MVL is in the lead because of a tie break in his favor. All right. So he played h5. And Giri played d4. h5, what is the idea? Just you h5, h4, h3, just attack. This is very typical for this line and for any fianchetto bishops. Castle was perfectly normal, I'm guessing, but he decided that that is within white's preparation and he wants counterplay, so it makes sense. h5, d4 in 1 minute played by Giri, e takes d, e takes d. And so usually there's a rule. If one side plays on the side of the board, like h5, the opponent has to hit the center. So that's exactly what Giri is doing, but since the time he spent on moves are so little, it seems to me that was still his preparation. And now a very interesting move by Grishchuk, queen to d4. Usually queen is like the worst defender ever. Sorry, blockader or defender, or the worst defensive piece. Like and especially it's not a good blocker, right? The queen on d4 could be kicked away, but in this case that was great, because in order to kick away the queen, white has to play a passive move with the knight, and now after queen g4, black can force an exchange of the queens, and then black's king would be safe, and that was the problem for black, king safety. So queen f4, again great play by Grishchuk. He spends lots of time and then finds all the good moves. Queen g4, I don't see an improvement for white. Bishop f3 looks artificial, queen can go to g6, and this bishop is completely misplaced. Bishop h3 would come with a tempo. So queens exchange, and now bishop g4 with a tempo to buzzer white a little bit, and long castle, black completes the development. White pushes d4, and knight c7, blockading the d5 square. Knight to e3, white is fighting for that square, black keeps control over that square, and now Giri couldn't take it anymore and he decided that it's time to simplify and go for a draw. So because he spent 30 minutes here, well, according to online engine, that's a mistake. My guess is that he decided to play for a draw here already, because black controls the e5 square very well. And any moment the knight would appear on d5, h4, white does not have any advantage. Lila gives 0.2 to white, so maybe white could have continued. Stockfish gives zeros, but he decided to just hit the center, d5, lots of exchanges. That knight has to take, because if other knight, then bishop c7 would be a problem. Knight takes, knight takes, knight takes. Well, taking with the pawn is always horrible because the king is so weak. Now rook c7 would win. So knight takes d5, knight takes, and for the same reason bishop takes, rook takes. That's just showing off, I would say. Rook takes, bishop takes. So he was expecting this as well. He wanted to give this nice check and then play rook d1 and then take on d5, and that is a draw. So rook takes d5, bishop takes, pawn takes, check, king d7. Yeah, he could have played rook d1, by the way. That may have been a simpler way to make a draw. Rook to d1. And then just take on d5, king c6, another check. Maybe he didn't like something like this. But now there's apparently bishop e3. So maybe it was forcing a better draw, but he went for this. Takes, rook went to c8, rook takes, and now white had to be a little bit accurate, because there's no time to protect the pawns, like b3, it's d4, the pawn is very dangerous, or engine is suggesting bishop c5, f2 is hanging, of course. Bishop c5 is way better. Sorry, my stockfish got The stockfish again is not working. Oh, come on. I'm gonna be using mine again. It is slower, but sorry for technical difficulties. You're welcome to ask questions. Why not queen d3 in Giri's game? I'll respond to that in a second. Do you use engines for prep or still databases plus comp engine? Why to take isolated pawn? Okay, so Simon Kusto is asking why am I using AI engine? I'm using both. That's a good combination of to use regular stockfish and Leela, because in my previous streams I showed that that Leela could show better understanding of some positions compared to stockfish. So next one, the question was why not queen takes d3? I would say because Giri prepared so, but let me see what is the reason. The queen is usually vulnerable in the center, so the queen doesn't like to be in the center if it can be attacked. So surprisingly, the queen on e5 is well placed because it's the only way to attack it is f4, which significantly weakens the position. Yeah, I hope the transmission is okay. And the queen is vulnerable, and maybe that's like the only reason. So let's say black hits it with b4 I don't like, c5 I like. Where does the queen go? If you stay on d file, then rook d8 would come at some point. If you go to c2, h4. Yeah, I'm guessing his main idea was d4, d5, d6 to push that pawn as far as possible, and that is why a great move queen d4, because any other move d4, d5 would come very quickly. So for example, bishop e6 looks like a natural move, white hits d4, queen goes there, white hits d5, and black is in big trouble. White opens up the position and gets to black's king, so that was the idea, but Grishchuk stopped this one with queen d4. Maybe white should have tried knight e2 to avoid the queen exchange. Queen d8 and now d4, for example. Maybe that was a good try. Maybe that was actually a better try. But knight c2 is much more logical because you want to open up the bishop. But it turned out to be an inaccuracy in my point of view. All right. So, and then Giri had to show some accuracy in this endgame. But he knows how to make draws, right? So what happened next? Bishop to f6 and rook to a4. Bishop takes b2. Rook takes b2 was possible, but then it is quite hard after any move like king g2 to make any progress for black. Black is a little bit pressing because white cannot really move this rook because this pawn needs protection and d4 needs to be stopped, but it's very hard to come up with a plan for improvement for black. That's why white can hold it. Black took with the bishop, improving the king, and black said, that's enough. By the way, Magnus Carlsen would definitely kept on playing here. Black has risk-free advantage. There's no way black's gonna lose it. 48 CPUs, yeah. Yeah, that's not mine, I'm renting it. Yeah, it's not working already, so I'm using my regular one. Cloud engines in ChessBase, they are not very expensive at all. Like for $1 per hour, you can get really, really powerful computers. So I think Carlsen would go f6 and then he would go g5, g4, h4, something like that, and try to push. But Grishchuk, I'm guessing he was low on time. Let me see. No, he was not low on time. Huh, interesting. Well, it doesn't seem that way. 30 minutes, 40, 50, see. Oh no, maybe he was low on time, yeah. He was low on time and he decided just, yeah. Come on, guys. What's this? I don't know why they played for so... maybe there's a 40 move rule. I don't know. But there was a threefold repetition. Anyways, so good defense by Grishchuk. Good preparation by Giri. Very strong. This is very high level, boring game. Nevertheless, I find it interesting because there are many ideas behind the scenes. All right. So next game. Caruana Van Gaal. Boring Petrov with different castles. Okay, with different castles it's not really boring. So let's quickly check the online database. I just don't like it getting in the way of a chessboard. So this position was played on highest level. Caruana played like this with black against Magnus, with white against Duda. Bishop e6, king b1. So this is Caruana-Duda game, and Nepomniachtchi Duda. And queen a5, Caruana won against Duda. He played a3, and now he decided to go c4, which what Magnus did against Fabi 2 years ago. Queen takes, and now knight takes d2. Basically a novelty. There were some players playing it, but let me see if that was correspondence. No, that was not correspondence. So knight takes d2, preparation by Fabi. And what happened after knight d2? Van Gaal still blitzes out rook a to d8, which is the best move according to Lila and not the best according to my not very fast stockfish. Rook a to d8. And now Fabi sought for 12 minutes on his next move. Both engines are saying that knight to e4 is a good move. I'm guessing he was considering it. I'm just trying to understand why is this one so bad. Without knights, it is very difficult to make progress. Bishop f6, bishop f4, bishop e5. Why is it so bad? Why is Lila liking white so much? Because of protected passed pawn, but this is a rook endgame. So maybe knight to e4 would be a better try compared to what Fabi did, because after f3, b6, black just simply pushed d5. And that was it. So black played very natural moves and equalized. So something went wrong. I'm not sure what Fabi didn't like about knight to e4. My guess is that removing the knights really simplifies the position and fortresses can appear all over the place. All right. Yeah, both engines say that h6 is good. Okay, well, but why does it make such a big difference? Takes. Bishop to, oh, the pawn is hanging, of course. Of course. Maybe he didn't like bishop c4, but then bishop takes b7, and here black has weak pawn here and more pawn islands, so that was not good. But I still don't get it. What is the difference? b3. Yeah, black can hold this one. White is slightly better, but black can hold this one. So f3 maybe not the best choice. b6 followed by d5, g4. Well, f3 was with the idea of g4, g5, knight to h5, takes. Now knight goes to a nice outpost for just a second until Van Gaal hits it with f5, and this knight has no good place to go. White has to recapture. Knight takes, and now white has a worse pawn structure. So so because of pawn islands, so white has one island on the queen side and two islands on the king side. f3 is a potentially big weakness. So here strategically black is better, but so white should seek dynamics here. That's why I would say knight g5 may have been a better try. h6 and c4, and that bishop has no place to go, and white gets 2 bishop advantage. At least something to compensate for a bad pawn structure. What didn't he like about knight g5? I do not know. Let me see how much time did he spend on bishop g5. 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about bishop g5. What is the idea? Is white's idea to take everything? Okay, white to take everything, but black would take with the g pawn, and that would just be equal. So bishop g5 looks a little bit too slow to me. Knight g5, attacking move. h6, or maybe he didn't like c4, but then bishop to f5 and e6 square is weak. So the reason I want to go to g5, white needs dynamics. White needs to go to attack here, attack there, attack here. White needs to attack, maybe move the bishop somewhere to attack that bishop. White needs to play actively. He played this move, king f7. Knight c3 suggested by Lila. What is this? Knight c3, what if I take? Rook d2. Wow, that is amazing. Just sacrifice a pawn for nothing? I don't understand this one. What's the threat? Bishop c4, king g6. What's the threat if I do some dubious move? Let me play some dubious move on purpose. Okay, bishop b5. Okay, rook f8. Rook f2. Rook coming to f2. Next move. And then bishop c4, and then king is in trouble. That is nice. h6, bishop f4. g5. It looks like a healthy extra pawn to me. Bishop g3. So this is very computer stuff. I'm not sure if they discussed it at the press conference. I didn't watch it, but it looks like two computer chess to me. Like full pawn down, it's black to move, no immediate threats. I don't get it. I don't get it. Apparently black has many weaknesses. So knight c3 is not a human move at all. Knight g3, knight is coming to f5, I can understand this move. c4, and now black sees the initiative, bishop to f1, b5, a4, very good move by Fabi. So the idea, of course, is if takes, there would be problems on this diagonal. For example, bishop takes. If bishop takes, it's rook d5, bishop here, pinning and winning. And so black would have to take with the king, which looks ridiculous, knight h5, then knight f4, again rook d5. So yeah, a4 to undermining the pawn structure, creating a weak pawn, and now Fabi aims to attack it. Takes lots of exchanges, forcing line. And now black is still pressing, I would say, because of active pieces. But c3, black tried this trick. So if pawn takes, it's bishop d5, check and cutting off the rook. And the same applies to b4, which is even mate, not even taking the knight. So b3, b4 is not good. Capture is not good. b3 is bad because pawn on c2 would be in big trouble. So white has to do something like this. Now rook and bishops are better than rook and knight. By force, white can get this position. And if you look at Stockfish, it was yelling, oh, black should have done this. But obviously they both saw it. Here the only thing not to do is to go to a pawn ending. Pawn endgame would be lost. If pawns were, yeah, okay. This pawn endgame is lost because black has two extra tempos. But if black had pawns on g6 and h6, white would be, well, this would be a draw after. Okay, I need to check whether it would be a draw. Let's say here, 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 here. I'm gonna do silly moves for black to check something. Yes, that's a draw because now black doesn't have extra tempos. And the only thing black can do is to push g3. And at this moment, it should be king h1 plate. If the king was on h1, white would be lost. So the only thing not to do is to go to a pawn ending. Just move the king to f2 or to even to no, f2 is fine. And then just move the knight back and forth, and the evaluation of Stockfish is ridiculous. So the game ended with h5, h4, and same position. Just don't go to a pawn endgame and you'll be fine. So that was an even game. Fabi was better, Van Gaal was better, but never too much. And a very good high-level play of both players. Do I like random Fischer chess? I played it just maybe once or twice. I liked it. The only issue I have with it is I enjoyed it a lot. And the problem I find is that I have no clue how to evaluate any Fischer random position. I cannot tell you who's better, who's not. I'm looking at the position and I have no clue what is going on, even though I'm a chess professional. So because there are many people who say that we should change chess to Fischer random to avoid all the preparation. I disagree with that. Oh, I agree that all the preparation would be useless because there are 959 positions other than the starting one. 960, right? Yes, I think that's the number. But the problem is, since I don't know who's better and what is going on, there's no way the public would understand it. So this game itself is difficult, but at least we grandmasters can explain during streams and online commentary. But in Fischer random, I have no clue what is going on. There's nothing for me to share. I can only start to understand what is going on when the position looks like from a game that we're used to. So that's the problem I have with Fischer random. We find it hard to promote this chess because that's too difficult to public. And Fischer random chess is just beyond our grasp to explain. Even engines would not be very helpful there either, I would say. All right. So the game of the day, MVL Nepo. MVL, I remind you, was 1 point behind Nepo, but he had a rest day to prepare, and Nepo had a, like, if you're winning, you really don't want to have a rest day. And that's exactly what Nepo got after, I think he won 2 games in a row. Let me check. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm checking right now. Yeah, he won 2 games in a row. He's on fire, and suddenly, no, you relax, take it easy. He didn't need to take it easy, he needs to keep going. And that's exactly what, and if you lose the game, that's good to have a rest day, usually. So, and MVL had like 4 draws in a row. He rested and he crushed Nepo quite hard. So let's go to the French defense. Exact same position was Oleksiyenko Nepo from a few days ago. And Queen c7, Oleksiyenko played knight f3, and MVL played h5. So here's a little secret about French. Stockfish doesn't get it. It gives zeros when white is better. It says black is better when white is better. It doesn't understand it that well. And Lila and other artificial intelligence engines understand this position on much better level. So if you look with Lila, it gives 0.45 for white, and Stockfish gives zeros, and it doesn't matter what to do. The point is that these positions are strategical, where you have to have a long-term plan, you have to maneuver pieces slowly, and Lila is way better at doing that than Stockfish. So Rook b1, Dominguez saw twice this game happened in 2017. So I'm not an expert of this position, but I can explain several ideas here for you. So for example, in Oleksiyenko game, the moment black goes b6, white needs to give a check, because if black exchanges this bishop for free, that would be a big problem. So MVL played queen to g4, and let's see, Dominguez Wesley saw in both games king f8 was played. And I'm guessing MVL had something prepared, and you can see the difference. Lila gives 0.68 for white, and Stockfish gives zeros. I believe Lila. I think rook h3 could be the best move of the position. Bishop a6, and it says rook to f3. Okay, bishop takes f1 is a mistake because of queen e6, so black has to react with, let's say, king g8. Still zeros from Stockfish, and 0.8 already from Lila. Queen f4, the pawn is hanging, knight to c6 is the only move. And now what does white do? Lila says you can... Oh, now Stockfish realized, oh my god, I'm worse. Which Lila was saying all along. So, and again, zeros. Okay, let me show again. Knight f5, Lila, Stockfish says it's zeros, Lila says... And this is not a very powerful Lila, by the way, that I'm using. But this is the way a good analysis should be done. Lila says takes, and go just knight e2. Still zeros from Stockfish. Okay, this is not a very powerful stock, but Lila already gives huge advantage, because black has no counterplay and black's king is weak, and white has a surprisingly better pawn structure. Okay, now Stockfish starts to realize that, oh my god, something is wrong. White is coming to g3, and then f-file would collapse. So it's going king g8, and Lila's going queen f4, Stockfish going rook f8. How can this be an okay position for black if black has to put all the pieces like this? Lila says, okay, now it's time to improve the bishop. Come on, Stockfish, when would you realize that black is in big trouble? Still knight b8, Lila says a5, another weakness created. Knight c6, 8xb, 8xb, king f1. Now even Stockfish realized that this is a better position. So Lila is way better at understanding French than Stockfish. When Stockfish gives zeros, you just ask Lila and it would say, no, white is way better here. And now bishop to b5 to force the king to a worse place. Bishop goes to d3. Lila says to take on c5 right now, but this is again weak Lila, so I'm guessing MBL team is using, okay, if he has a team, because he's like a week before the start he got to know it. So with bishop d3, white says, yeah, you want to take my bishop? Improve my pawn structure. Come on. D takes c5. White needs to open up the position now to get to that king. When did his preparation end? I forgot to check that one. Sorry, one moment. he was blitzing out moves until bishop d2, until move 17. So this is within his preparation. Queen e5 just opens the... Even Stockfish says this is bad. Bishop takes, pawn takes. That pawn is poisoned. Rook b7 would just... Oh, bishop f4 wins the piece. So white opens up the position for free and keeps attacking. C takes b, a takes b. Queen b4. I don't know about that. So he obviously analyzed this one, and this is open and very sharp position. This is not something you want to go when you know that you're being prepared. So you want to close the position. You want to play a move that probably Stockfish was not suggesting. Still not yet. Now bc5. Queen d1 still blitzed out by MVL. And now queen a5 played by Nepo. All moves logical, but the position is bad. So the pawn is hanging. Actually, this bishop belongs on this diagonal, like in famous Botvinnik Capablanca, I think that was the game in French, slightly different pawn structure, that monster bishop on a3. But temporarily, white has to keep all the pawns together. a3 pawn, nobody cares about it. So what happened next? Rook to b8, which is the best move according to Lila and more or less Stockfish, rook to b8. And now knight to e2, white simply continues the development. And MVL is finally on his own. 16 minutes and 25 minutes on castle. c4. Yeah, both engines say it was a bad decision to block the center. On the other hand, I can understand why he did it. How can black switch those pieces? This is not... If black were castled, black would have a great position. Just take on b1, rook b8, right? But the king and rook are wrongly placed. Yeah, if it was Fischer random, then he would castle. But that's not Fischer random chess anymore. So he needs to switch them. But how can you possibly do it? Going f6, this is like shooting yourself in the leg, you know, e6 pawn is weak. Going g6 is even worse. So black actually has to try rook h8 and king to h7 and then move the rook, but then any check from here would ruin. So black has to actually move the king to the queen side and then connect the rooks, but for that you definitely need to close the position. So I'm not sure why they both suggest to take and stop white from castling. Yeah, but I don't think white can go f3, king f2, and then black still is having very hard time getting this rook into the game. So he closes the position, apparently a mistake. Castle, good move. Rook b6, he is preparing to double the rooks. You know, there's a saying, in bad position, all moves are bad. This is exactly the position. Thanks, Alexei, for your comment. I'm doing my best, thank you. I don't know what to recommend. At least maybe take a pawn, but that's so unpleasant. Rook a1, rook a7, you're not even winning the pawn. So I do not know what to recommend here for black. So he tries to double rooks to fight for the open file. Queen c2, rook h8. Why rook h8? Oh, the queen was coming to h7. Another problem. This is horrible. So it's very hard to... And now with every move, MVL is improving his position. Check it out. So both engine agrees that white is already basically winning. But how? So how do you win such position? With every move, you try to improve your position. So don't waste time on moves like g3 or something. Which of white's pieces needs improvement the most? That's the bishop on d2. Where it has to be? It has to be on this diagonal. So just go ahead and go a4. King e8. So bishop c1 was an alternative, but you lose the a4 pawn. So white goes rook b4 first, improving the rook. Knight goes to c6, attacking the rook. And MVL says, nah, you can take it. I'm going to go f4. So what white needs to do is to move the bishop here and then hit from the king side. That's the plan. You cannot get through on the queen side. You need to f4, f5, and then after knight f4, where black's position would collapse. So that's a long-term plan for white. But he starts with f4 and says, yeah, you can take my exchange. There you go. Well, taking with the rook, that's a deadly pin. White wins the rook. So queen has to go. White goes b5. That would be a great game, by the way. Then bishop goes to b4. This is AlphaZero style. Complete domination. f5 to come, this bishop cutting the position in half. a6, f5, a takes b, a5, just blocking. It's not, the engine says there are better moves, but a5, rook to a6, white has exchanged and 1 pawn down, but that would have been an amazing game. Can you maybe sometimes record a video about opening preparation for advanced experienced players? Yeah, I would think about that, but there's not a big market for advanced players. I do it in my private lessons. Maybe I would do a video for lower rated players on the openings. I would think about that after candidates are over. Thank you for your suggestion, Alexei. All right. So, and then white can do whatever white wants. Knight c3 is good. You know, f takes e. Just black is playing one rook. It seems that black is exchange up, but in fact black is one piece down because rook from h8 can never enter the game and white is completely dominating. So Nepo decides to come back to e7 to stop f5. Now rook goes to b1, f5, trying to stop that. Well, both engines say that f4 maybe was not the best. Maybe rook takes b6 and then first improves the bishop. But from human point of view, I think it was a great play. Both engines say that rook g8 with the idea of g6 was good, but good is a strong word for this position. White is way better in any case. So he tries to block it, but that just makes his pawn structure much worse. So by the way, you can see the difference. Stockfish says to take, which gives some counterplay to black, and Lila says, no, you just improve the bishop. Or you go rook b5 first. Now it's time to improve the bishop. White improves the bishop. Now white takes the knight that holds the position together in g4, and white crushes black's position into pieces. G takes f, rook b1, queen b1, e takes f played by Nepo. Maybe queen b6 was a better try, but I believe Stockfish more because it calculates precise variations faster and better. So I'm guessing after queen a1, what does knight f8 by Lila? Already plus 2.5 from Stockfish. With all due respect to Lila, I think this is a crushing advantage. King f7, king f2, a6, what is this? a6, queen a3. White would slowly crush it. At some moment white would take and start pushing pawns. There's nothing black can do about that, and Lila acknowledges that already. So he takes f5, knight takes to g3. You don't want to go queen there because you don't want black queen to get active here, and you definitely want to keep the queens in this position. So that's why white played here and here, and keeping the queens because black's king is surprisingly less safe than white's king. Queen e6, knight back to g3, and those pawns would be unstoppable. Okay, black decided to take at least one of them, but then black's position is just collapsing. Yeah, so this is of course frustration, I would say. g7 and resign. Great win by MVL. Great preparation, great play, with minor bumps along the way, but he never he grasped the advantage out of the opening and he never let go. Mate in 22 by Stockfish evaluation. All right, so that concludes the half of the tournament. After 7 rounds, Nepo and MVL, Maxim Vashyelagrav, have 4.5 out of 7, which is +2. And the rest of the guys have 50% or lower. So that sounds like a candidates to me. +2 is in the clear lead. Caruana, Giri, Van Kao and Grishchuk are 1 point behind. So any win when they meet them, so who's gonna play? So Caruana plays white with MVL. If he beats MVL tomorrow, that would change the whole tournament. Nepo is playing white against Giri. Giri is very solid. He wants to get into plus for once in his life in candidates. So he scored his win 2 days ago. So he would be very hard in defending. Oleksiyenko play white against Grishchuk, and Van Kao plays white against Ting Liren. So MVL is having hard time against FIDE tomorrow. He's also has a narrow repertoire, but he was on the edge with Van Kao. So if he survives tomorrow and Nepo doesn't win, then MVL would be my favorite. Okay, thank you for watching. Check the description of the video. Tune in tomorrow. Tell your friends, click like, subscribe, ring the bell, buy my course on tactics. Take care. Have a good day. Bye, bye, bye.